Hi, Tory. It's so nice to have you. Thank you for taking time to chat with me. And I'm so happy that I didn't realize I'm a fan of your YouTube content. Same with my partner. And we were inspired by the things that you were putting out. And I'm so glad that I have a chance to sit with you. And I didn't realize we were taking the program around the same time. And now literally started, like kind of launched our business around the same time. So this is kind of exciting. And I can't wait for people to have a look at this and be inspired and maybe connect with us in terms of resources, but also be inspired to take up real estate and pursue a career in real estate as well.
Absolutely. Like you said, it's funny how we kind of had similar journeys. We're going through the course at the same time. We got licensed around the same time. We ended up joining the same company.
Absolutely.
and then we met after all of that, and like our personalities just already sync and everything. So it's definitely a pleasure to be chatting with you again.
Awesome. Yeah. Can you tell everybody why real estate? How did you get into real estate? And when did you start your program?
So I started my program January 4th of this year. So I was in a major just transitional period of time. I was working in the insurance claims industry over the last 10 years. I had a car accident that left me with a concussion. So just the time of things that were happening, I was transitioning to different careers, and real estate is always something that I've just had a passion for, and talking to people, teaching, mentoring, educating people has always been a passion. So it just really seemed like a natural fit for me. So I took that leap of faith. I started January the 4th. Things were going good. I had actually planned on working at a brokerage part-time while I was getting my courses to get that extra experience. And then it was 3 days later that the whole pandemic happened.
Yeah,
and
wow.
Life kind of just started changing again, but it all was for the better good because I had more time to really nail down the courses and finish as fast as I could, and ended up getting licensed that same year.
Wow. I love how there were so many challenges, literally. I'm sorry that you had to go through that accident, and clearly you're like an example of resiliency, right? And to get through, and for those that are taking this program right now and are going to be watching this, it's hard. It's really challenging. And if you are someone who've never taken or been in real estate or purchased a place before, I honestly, it's a different language.
I think the first course, mainly you're just getting used to all the different terminologies. It becomes second nature to you, but then, there was that time where you're like, whoa, what is this? So it's definitely a whole horizon.
Oh yeah. How many times have you Googled something while you're learning? Like,
oh God. That was every day. The funny thing is, with the course being online, there's actually a lot of visuals to the slides, but I feel like there wasn't so much visuals of what you were learning. So there's a lot of pictures of people in the background, realtors and things like that, which is funny. But like especially course 2, when they're going over the different construction components, the wiring and things like that, like I had to be going on Google and YouTube to kind of get better visuals to see what does that look like in real life.
yeah, even especially with like structural questions, like what's it called, like supplies and walls and different, when they're getting into the real like inspection related things, they would show one picture that was a type of wall, and you're like, is that the only thing that it exists in every house that's a brick?
I know, right?
I wanted to mention one thing though, because last time when I was chatting with you and I was telling my husband how much Tory's always ahead of the game with, putting out YouTube content and creating things, being a resource for a lot of students like myself and my partner, is the way that you're so prepared is the way you're prepared with your Christmas tree on the background. Like, it's good.
Oh gosh.
You are, it's not something that you embody, like this is who you are, and I like it. I like that we have that in similar, because my list, so this is good. I stress
even
myself
just
out.
going back to the course, like I take notes for everything.
Yes.
Like I have notes on my phone, notes on my paper, notes on my desk, everything. If we're having a conversation, I'm probably taking notes.
Yes.
But the one thing is, during this course, I had to stop taking notes because there's just so much content that you need to learn, and ends up adding a lot more time to your completion date and your studying. So
I wanted to me, when I was in this program, I needed resources, and the first thing I did was search for them. And obviously, YouTube being, you know, that number one search engine now, I came upon your content, which was super helpful for me, and the Facebook groups, and a lot of people. I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't think I would have gotten through the program and be as prepared when to look for a brokerage. That was literally went over our head, and they never thought that to us. And by the time you get to course 5 and learn about all the application process, you're kind of, you feel like you've missed a step, right? You missed a couple of steps.
yeah.
Like criminal record check takes a while, what type to get, when to get it, all of that stuff. I'm really glad that we have resources like those Facebook groups, and there's a couple out there, and there's some that are a bit better than others, with people being a bit more engaged and people willing to help. And I'm really glad that, you know, people are able to reach out and have those resources, and especially with the pandemic happening, and also because it is an online course to begin with, there isn't someone you can just, you know, go to in person and kind of ask all the questions, right?
Yeah, and I'm finding that a lot. I get a lot of people reaching out to me, and it's great because a lot of people are coming into the real estate industry looking to get their license that don't necessarily know a lot of realtors. So I have a lot of people saying they want to start the program, they want to get their license, but they have like no one there to help them, or no resources or things like that. And that's definitely, I would say, an area of opportunity for Humber to have more of that kind of real world coaching. And that's the main reason why I wanted to start my YouTube channel, was to help the people get through the program. Because as I was going through it, I saw like, what do I do next? And then I would do my research and I'd find stuff, and I'm like, I spent a lot of time researching this. I don't know if everybody else is going to, so let me kind of just put it in a video, put it out there, and hopefully that'll make it easier for other people.
Absolutely. And the fact that you were asking those questions, guarantee you other people were asking them, right? And
Right.
we talked about this is that one industry where, like a lot of others too, but this one in particular, I feel like they're, even the instructors and sims would call it, you know, the real world. And then what they would teach you versus by the time you get that, you know, get into it, it's a different ball game, right? And they don't prepare you quite so for it. So I wanted to ask you, so why did you join EXP Realty brokerage? And I know that you're part of a team, and how did you make that decision into wanting to join a team?
Coming into real estate, your real estate business is you get as much out of it as you put into it. So I'm a very pretty organized person, resourceful. So I was planning to be like a solo agent pretty much the whole year. So I was looking for a brokerage. My number one thing was training and mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to find a brokerage that had those qualities, that also had good technology, and also that was economical, so affordable. Starting off, I knew I wasn't going to have a lot of sales in the beginning. Things would be more stretched out. So I wanted to have a brokerage that would make it easier for that payment schedule. So I did a lot of research, and I found another person on YouTube who did a video, and she was talking about her brokerage. And at the end, she said the name was EXP, but she was from the States. And I'm like, oh man, I wish there was something like this in Canada. And at the end of their video, she said that we're actually international. We're in a bunch of countries, including Canada. And I'm like, wow, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
So my next step was I started searching the hashtag EXP Realty Canada on Instagram. And I pretty much messaged every realtor I could find with who used that hashtag, and just asked them their opinion about the company. And I was hearing consistently the same thing from every realtor. And I did do my due diligence. So I interviewed 5 different brokerages in total, but this was the one that definitely stood out to me. So I'm like, you know what, this is the choice. And I love that they have no obligation. You can join them. If you don't like them 3 months later, you can leave. So I wanted to have that freedom to say, you know what, I'd rather give this seems like a really good risk to take. So I said, I'd rather try this. And if it doesn't work out, I can always go to another traditional brokerage. But I said, I have to try this first.
Yeah, and we both put out videos about content about why we joined EXP, you know, on top of all of this. And I think that I love the setup of EXP in a way that people like you know, I want to join a team now, but I'm an independent person. I want to create my team, and you have goals for your future as a business. I love that EXP has so many streams of revenue that they're going to set you up to be a team leader eventually. And I like the resources they provide. No, that's awesome. Good for you. And same with me. Around course 3, I started looking for brokerages again because I saw posts on Facebook when people were like, when should I join a brokerage? And they were like, some said course 2, some said course 3, because apparently it's the hardest course. Everything was hard. So when I finished course 3, I thought, you know what, let me start calling people. And I called literally brokerages around my neighborhood because I didn't know. I thought you were an employee of a brokerage, and that I didn't realize you were self-employed. I didn't realize the structure and the fees and the commitment that was involved. Right? Did you feel the same?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it was so funny because as I was doing interviews with brokerages from course 2, I started. As I was doing interviews, it was the people who were interviewing me, it was them explaining to me how the real structure of things work. And they're like, don't they teach you this in the course? And I'm like, no.
I didn't realize how important you pre-planning and managing and prioritizing and having a real control of your schedule was, because you're kind of on your own. Yes, you can join a team, but at the end of the day, you wake up and you get what you put into it, like you said, right? Like, I think that's
absolutely.
I think that's a preconceived notion, just like you go into any school.
And whether you're on a team or not, honestly, you're still an independent kind of business mind frame. The team can be there to add so much support and so much resources that you really do need in the beginning. But at the end of the day, it's still up to you to actually go out and put those things in practice and to do that business, to do this prospecting and get that experience yourself. So definitely.
That's great. Is there any study tips that you used along the way that really helped you to kind of go through the program in such short amount of time? And I know what did they say? They said you can get it, the minimum is, I know someone said they finished it in 4.5 months, but 4 to 6 months if you're being, without any interruptions, without real world interruptions.
Absolutely. I actually timed it out. You could do the course in about 4.5 months. It'd be a very diligent schedule, studying quite a few hours a day, and especially topping it up on the weekend, but it definitely is possible depending on the type of person you are and the lifestyle you have. For me, my biggest study tip was to stop taking notes. So course 1, I started taking notes, and by the end of it, I'm like, I can't do this for the whole course. It's going to take me like the full 2 years to finish. So I stopped taking notes and I started relying on Pass It a lot. So Pass It was really like my lifesaver, because in reading the course materials, the style of questions on the exam is not straightforward questions.
That's right.
Like the exam, often they will give you the definition of a term in the question and they will ask you how to apply it in one of the answers. So having Pass It definitely helped me. Some people said it didn't help them, but for me and a lot of people, the majority of people I heard from, it was definitely get you in that same mindset. For me, I had quite a few questions, maybe up to 10 questions that were actually on Pass It that I ended up seeing on the exam. So that really helped to prepare me. So my biggest tips were stop taking notes and start using Pass It more regularly. With me particularly, I didn't read the whole content and then use Pass It. I was studying Pass It as I was reading. And not just the multiple choice questions, because that's the only thing that like most people use. And I'm like, no, you have to use the Terminator and the rapid recall, because that really tests your brain to recall that information in a different way that will really help you to understand it better.
It's funny, when I took course 1, I didn't know about Pass It. So what I did was I studied course 1 fully. I went through it literally like you note by note, like sentence word by word. And then I studied it again. And then it really stuck. Like I first time I went, I still had no idea what an encroachment was. Like I couldn't, an easement. Like I had a really hard time understanding what an easement. The second time I went, I'm like, oh, how did I not get this? My goodness, they had a drawing about like the lake, and then you can't get to the lake to this person, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So I'm like, okay, this is how you do it. You study the whole thing, first course, and then you read it again, you got it. And then course 2 came along. And then course 2 came along.
Oh, God.
Oh,
yep.
Goodness.
They could have split it up. I'm kind of glad that they didn't, but it's just so much content. I feel like they made it extra long to kind of wean out the people
Yes.
who are not going to be persistent.
So I went through the whole content for course 2, and I couldn't go back again because it was a mammoth. Like, I didn't know where to click and where I left off. So I finished the whole thing. I took Pass It, and I just did a bunch of different things on Pass It, and I literally crossed my fingers and took the course. And I was able to recall information. So, and I also took, you know what really helped me? Lisa Mark's Quizlets when it was available at the time. And it was so good. It was like quick cheat notes. She's another fellow student of ours, for those that don't know. Lisa Mark, she's an admin for one of the Facebook groups, and she has some content on YouTube as well. And she's, again, like you, Tory, a great resources for people that are in real estate and starting off. So she was one of those people that when her Quizlets were, when I had them and kind of disappeared, I did download especially course 4, which a lot of the content was repetitive and it was a bit dry at times. So her audio Quizlet, because her voice sounds super nice, because she's a podcaster, right?
Yeah,
so it was really nice listening to her content. It was actually easier to take in once I purchased that. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I have like so many different study tips, but that was definitely one of them. To really help the information stick, you don't want to just be reading it, but you want to have the content read back to you. So there's some people that have, I never got to use it, but there's some apps, I think it's just with Androids, but it will read whatever is on the screen back to you. So either having that, Lisa, she has so many different resources. She actually has a video study guide for course 1.
Yes.
That came out right after I passed course 1, but it really just helps to tie in the information. And even the video guide that she has for course 1, that helped me understand concepts for course number 2. So I use some of that for course number 2 as well. But the audio Quizlets, just having that information absorbed in different forms can really help you better understand what the content is too.
For me, another aspect that really helped was anytime you don't understand a terminology, like either Googling obviously really helped, but also reaching out to someone in the group, just posting the question, and so many people jumped in and
you'd be surprised. Yeah.
And they were understanding 100%.
Exactly. And even in some, like, there's multiple groups, but even in some of the groups, there's ones with actual licensed realtors in there. And it's funny because sometimes they would tell you, like, guys, this is not going to be in the real world, so don't stress yourself about it.
Like, but it's going to be on the exam. You know, it's like, I need to get you. And it's so hilarious when honestly, when I was in the program, there were so many questions about how am I going to survive this and get through it. There's so much, but once you finish and you realize and how many times have you came out of an exam and you're like, I don't know how I did. And I studied like crazy for, I came out and I was just like, I don't know about this one. And then obviously the marks surprise you. But I agree. And I like the fact that you said maybe have the content be read back to you. And the fact that a lot of us, you know, when we went to college or university and we went into a class and had someone teach us, or we took after class programs, and now we have this online system, which is literally like a robot, either reading to us or we're reading it ourselves. There's that one version of learning. And I agree, like tap into different ways for the information to stick to you. And the fact that there isn't a lot of information out there for this program to kind of help you and guide you throughout. So I'm really glad like content like yours exists, and the fact that we're even having this conversation so that people are able to kind of use this as a resources when they're studying as well, and kind of have hope. You can do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing that I try to do, especially in my more recent YouTube videos, just try to be open and transparent and let people know you're going to make mistakes. There's going to be times where you don't know the answer, but it doesn't mean that it's not the career for you or that you're not going to make it. So you just take those with a grain of salt, learn from each and every experience, and you keep pushing, you keep going.
And I'm really glad that we're kind of connected in an international level as well.
I know.
You know, so that you can kind of go really anywhere and kind of practice in a way if you were to able to get that education. It's also connected to refer to people, right? It's
exactly. I love that about EXP. They're expanding in so many different countries. And just the fact that they're so prominent in Canada and the US, like I have some people who have said like, some people who are licensed and living in Canada, they're realtors. And they said when they they're eventually going to move to the US, and all they have to do is go take the real estate course for a couple weeks, and they'll still be under the same company and just go and do real estate over there.
Wow, that's
So we
amazing.
really have that flexibility with EXP that not a lot of other brokerages have. So that's
That's
one
super.
of the many reasons as
Yeah.
well why I joined. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Awesome. Thank you, Tory, for making time to chat with me today. And I had a great time and I learned a lot from you. And I hope we can have this conversation going.
Absolutely. We should make this a more regular thing.
I agree. And if anybody has questions, obviously feel free to comment below in the video. Myself or Tory will reach out to you and we'll help you out as much as we can.